So I understand that the saddle is the key focal point initially. How does your brain interpret the saddle?
All right, that's a very interesting question, thank you. The brain is probably the other third person on your bike, and it really is like a separate entity, and it makes choices without you knowing. So the brain, when you get on a bike, your feet are elevated from the floor, you're airborne, and it freaks out. It just wants to pull the brakes, put your feet on the floor. That's what it wants to do. So how does the saddle influence what your brain's going to do is, how do we give the brain some stability? It's asking the skeletal system to find the floor, to find some stability. So every single bone in your body is going to try and find something to sit on and make you not be airborne anymore, all right? So the saddle, that's why I measure the sit bones. I want to give it enough floor to sit on so that you don't start wiggling around. So what happens when the saddle is too narrow? If I could use a saddle, if you feel like your sit bones are over here on the saddle, the brain goes, there's no floor, there's no saddle. It instructs the bones then to try and find it. So you start with this ridiculous little wiggle to try and put the sit bone on and off and on and off. So your pelvis is doing this all the time. So lots of all the little ligaments and muscles that goes into the spine to the pelvis exert themselves too quickly because they're doing this all the time, all right? Now it says, okay, sit bones, please find it, but next bone, please help. And then it shifts your pelvis, it rolls your pelvis forward onto your pubic bone. Now you're sitting on all your organs and all your soft tissue and all the nerves and the arteries, and that really is an instant no-go for you and your brain. So your brain just immediately transfers all the weight to your hands and your neck and your shoulders, and do you remember sitting like this on your bike? So it's like I can't relax, Irma. There's so much pressure on my hands, and my neck is always sore. So it sits like this, it's freaking out, and now it brings the pelvis, so you push back on your hands to bring the pelvis back up so you can get the weight off your front bit. And now you've extended your lower back, plus it's still wiggling, it's still doing this, and you don't know it, but it's doing that. And now you're contracting all your hip flexors, all these front muscles. You're holding, you're like doing a tummy crunch, and you're holding all of this together so that you're not sitting on the front bit. And now you want to try and push power and chase your mate, doing a circle with your leg, okay? And when all the chaos is done, the hill is finished and the stones are out the way, you get to the top and there's just a little bit of coming at the top. What most people do is they sit up and they twist like this and they shift their bums back. So when you move around on your saddle, that is a key symptom for me to know, because then I know that there's something wrong, and I either have to move the saddle in that direction or the width is a problem. So no compromising on the width. If it's too wide for you, you'll have all the same symptoms, but in this case what happens is you on the saddle, right, and your brain's happy, but now you can't push your leg past the saddle. So it's like the chair's in my way and I can't get my foot to the bottom. So those people wiggle a lot. They're everywhere. They look like they're dancing on their bikes. It's horrible. So they ride like this to try and get the pedal or to get their leg past the saddle. So they move forward all the time. And the second they move forward, this is too narrow then, and then they fall off. So now all the pressure is on this bit of the saddle again. And they do all the same things. Okay, so I want for you to feel like you're solid, stable and secure and safe, and you sitting. You're not having to move your bum around. You don't want to waste any energy on finding where to sit. It should be an easy, comfortable, definite sit bone place to sit on, and it's not sore.
You weren't following me for 3 years watching me ride, because you've just summed up what I was like. I had a thin, narrow saddle that I inherited on the bike, and yeah, sitting on the inside, too narrow, a lot of pain through the pubic area.
So if we then add in your injuries and your illnesses list, can you imagine having degenerative arthritis in a hip that has to do this all the time, and everything that connects into the hip and connecting that together, doing that all the time, and it just has to be solid and stable.
Surprised I ever even enjoyed mountain biking, because it definitely has changed over the past couple of months, and all for the better. So
wonderful.
New saddle, a bike that fits, enough space for my injuries to do what they need to do. And yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Let's maybe just wrap it up on the saddle. You're sitting on your saddle, we've covered that in a lot of detail, but you're sitting in your shorts, whether it's Lycra, obviously, or Baggies, or chamois, or what's your take on that? How does that fit in?
So you're sitting on the sit bar mat, or that's the plan anyway. It's still soft tissue. Just because it's bone doesn't mean it can't bruise or bend or move around. It can. So we have chamois to just take some of that pressure away on the bony bits. So again, there's so many different chamois, so many different makes out there. You want to have something that feels like it covers, like I've measured your sit bones, covers that area, and you feel like when you're on the saddle, it sits. The problem with, as a female in particular, we have wide enough chamois on our bum bones, but then they keep it wide, and when you're sitting, it all frivels up in the front, and now you've got all this material stuck between your legs and the saddle. For me, that again is like choosing the shape of something, choosing your pair of shoes. It must fit into the shape of your body, from thick thighs, narrow thighs, however it works. The density of the chamois is important. It has a lifetime. Bibs versus shorts. If you have a weak bladder, bibs might not be a good idea. Baggy shorts versus normal shorts, I think that's more of a road bike versus a mountain bike scenario. The road bike guys are very much about fast speed, ergonomics, sticking together, being in a bunch, the least wind resistance. So you don't want anything flapping around. You are much faster, a lot more dynamic. It's a team thing, so you don't want nothing influencing or hindering you, irritating you. So that's where the baggies sort of fell off the bus with the roadie guys, is because they've got this thing tapping against their legs. It's irritating.
I just think you need every bit of help, so that's why I wear Lycra.
So if it's comfortable, as long as you're not going to hook, that's the other thing. With mountain biking, if they've got really big baggies, it hooks on branches and stuff, and they fall. So that's why they're getting it's still a baggie, but they're getting more and more skinny, and they're using more and more Lycra kind of material so that it stretches rather than you having this set piece of like normal shorts that you're wearing, so that it moves with your body and it doesn't hook as easily.